All right, guys and girls, welcome to Looper Talk, episode 9. Today, our episode is called What Golfers Get Wrong About Strategy. So, I will speak from a caddy standpoint, what I see wrong in a lot of my rounds. The typical low, high handicappers, what they face or what I see causes. Usually, I think strategy is most of people's downfall when it comes to, one, performing well on the course, but two, maintaining that performance. Because if we don't have a game plan, I feel like it's a waste of time. And this is the thing I want to tell you, players. Sorry, caddies, I'm going to give them a little inside info, but I find this quite funny. So, for some reason, players feel like, and I understand golf's a sensitive game. If you're not used to playing in front of people, or if you don't like doing that, you feel like people can be judgy. It's like a judgmental deal. Weird, because there's this underlying culture that if you're not good at the game, you're not worthy, which is so strange because that's not it at all. It's gotten a lot better, but it used to be a little bit more stuffy than what it is. But players, when they have a caddy get introduced, they get all excited, and some of them will tell us their goals or whatever, and that's great, and we love that. But we can almost look at your golf bag, and we can tell the quality of player you are. Let me rephrase that. We can tell what kind of golfer you are by simply looking at your golf bag. So, depending on the individual, what the expectations are, and what we need to try to get you to do that day. So, I think in terms of our episode, being a caddy, we implement strategy heavily in our craft without you all knowing it, because that is what helps you all get through the round. Two, that helps us get through the round. And that, again, if you play better, we feel like we get paid better. So, for you players that are not used to a caddy program and you show up and you have a veteran caddy who's been caddying for a long time, I promise you that player, or that caddy, has seen players like yourself and knows exactly where you're at. So it's okay to be yourself. It's totally fine. I promise you that caddy already knows what they have to do that day, where the strategy is going to come in. So, okay. My first thought for amateurs, again, regardless of handicap, I think in terms of strategy, what is one thing that they get wrong? And I think it's not having a game plan to begin with. And what I mean by that is there's no homework. They show up to a course blind. They've never seen it before. And then they expect things to happen to work out. Let's talk about the worst case scenario, because I understand not everyone is able to have a practice round. What we can do is we have the internet now. And what I would do is go on the internet, look up the golf course, figure out the layouts, figure out your distance, try to get a rough estimate of what 2 clubs you're going to hit on the tee box. And after that, if you can get a layout of the course, and see around the green, figure out which part of the green opens up to the middle. Most of the time, it's the front part of the greens that are always the easiest to get up and down. Most of the time. Not every time, but that's usually how it works. So if you're going into a course blind, I always tell people favor to the front side. That way you can, worst case, chip up on the green, go from there. But if you have seen the course, I think to come up with a game plan, we need to do all of what I'm saying, but actually have a practice round where we write all this stuff down. We do the 1, 2s, and 3s around the green. We figure out where the easy up and downs, which is the ones, where the one around the green is, which side of the green we need to miss on, whether it's short, long, left, or right. And then from there, we can develop a game plan. Now, tying this into a game plan, I don't want to think too far ahead. And I've said that a lot in a few previous podcasts. Thinking too far ahead can be detrimental. It takes us away from being an athlete and staying in the moment. What I recommend is having a general idea, but more or less, you are just trying to be aware of what you're up against. So as long as you know what's coming and you can somewhat prepare that way, I don't see nothing wrong with that. But to go ahead and pick the clubs you're going to hit and to go ahead and assume you're going to have these distances, I think that's ridiculous because you don't know the wind, you don't know the situation of how you're feeling, what's available in terms of, the clubs you feel comfortable hitting. So I think we have to be more adaptive in that in that sense when it comes to creating a game plan. But I think prepping beforehand, I don't see a lot of people when they show up to to Bandon Dunes, they don't do their research about the golf course and look at the holes beforehand to get an idea of what they're up against. And I think that would help a lot. Now, I think this is important because you can get lost on either side here. So another way I think golfers get their strategy wrong is they either stay too passive or they stay too aggressive, and we don't find those moments when you need to be one or the other. And I think really good golf, we need to have what I call green light moments. And the reason why we need to have these moments is because these moments will, one, give us opportunities. Two, I think it creates part of the game that allows entertainment to happen. Because if we're going to practice and spend all this effort to try to perform our best, why can't we have these moments where we be aggressive and try to hit the shot that we need to? I totally agree. It doesn't need to happen in every situation, but we need to have situations to where we allow ourselves to get into that mindset and hit these shots. Why not? And I'll give you an example. Let's think of two different iron shots scenarios. So your green light scenario would be like 110 yards away, pins right in the middle of the green. There's not much trouble around the green. You've seen this shot. It feels like you're on a driving range because the lie's nice and flat. I call that low-hanging fruit. That's a good green light situation because you have equal room on both sides of the flag. You have a nice flat lie. We're inside 150 yards. We got a nice scoring club in with a wedge, more than likely somewhere between a 9-iron and a sand wedge, depending on what kind of player you are. And even a lob wedge nowadays. But you get my point. Those are your green light moments. So then a yellow light moment? That would be kind of funny. Just a moment to be more cautious. 75 uphill, bunkers protecting left and right. You got to hit something around 190. Long's better than short, so you have a 5-iron, somewhere between a 6-iron and a 3 hybrid in, 3-iron, whatever. You get the point. We're not trying to be flag hunting. We're just trying to hit the green. And if we brought in that target from that distance and we understand the measures. So this is a good tip I got when I was playing mini tours. If I think this is in the Dave Pell's book, his practice Bible or the short game Bible, it says a 10% miss is good enough to make most PGA Tour cuts. Now, I would argue I think that's probably a lower number now, but I still like that number. 195, that's 200 yards at a 10% miss, that's 60 feet. That's 20 yards, right? For that shot to be on the green, that's amazing. And so to implement with our strategy, if we're in these situations where the shot's a little bit tougher, we have a bigger task in front of us to complete, fruits on top of the tree essentially, we need to understand what is good and what is not good. And so to be and most greens aren't 60 feet. So for a 195-yard shot to be around a 5-yard window of the edge of the green, to me that's plenty good for most players. And we have to understand that. So I think with strategy, if we can manage our expectations and know when these low-hanging fruit moments are there and they're available for us to deliver, and then when it's time to have more of a controlled aggression and pick a target that's, I don't want to say safer, that's more a target that's more appropriate for the situation. Because sometimes you might feel good enough to where you can see the shot and you can let it do what it has to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like I said, if your gut instinct is having different ideas, or you think, hey, we need to lay off the gas here, then and as long as we understand that and we can provide our best capacity in that moment to deliver what we can, then we don't have to expect perfection all the time. It's a simple concept that we have made it so complicated because the expectations in watching, and we have to understand when we watch professionals on TV, we're not watching, these professionals are not playing this way all the time 24/7. We're watching the ones playing well. Golf bites them in the ass too. That, I promise you it does. Now, yes, they can shoot 63. It's a different game. They have these moments where they're like a unicorn, and I agree. They're very talented players, but there's a human element, and the PGA Tour is not going to, that doesn't sell. It somewhat is now with YouTube Golf, but yeah, the PGA Tour is not going to show you these players that are playing like absolute dog shit. They're just not. They're gonna show the players playing well, shooting the low scores, right? So, but yes, I think a huge part of what players could work on strategically throughout their round is figuring out when to be aggressive and when to not be aggressive. I think that helps a ton, even on tee shots. Par 5 down breeze, big fairway, let it rip. There's nothing wrong with being aggressive on certain tee shots to set yourself up for scoring opportunities further along the hole, right? So, I think your low handicappers somewhat understand what I'm about to tell them. Your high handicappers get frustrated really fast, and I think there's a lot of frustrations that could be eliminated if we manage our expectations when we get in trouble. I think strategically throughout the round, we sometimes find ourselves in situations that are tough under a tree, in a bunker plugged, having to be 220 out and can't reach the green. So there's scenarios where you have to adapt or you have to do something to where your ego's you're almost fighting your ego like, "Oh, I could do this," or "I've done this once," or "This is what's expected of me." And I think in these moments, if we can strive to manage our expectations, to deliver an outcome that's manageable and not risk it for the shot that we barely can pull off, I think that will really help our stress throughout the round. But two, it'll help our score out because a bogey or a double bogey for a high handicapper on a bad hole, that's not a bad day. Sure, I understand that's not what we want. That's not what we're after. But golf is not golf without a tough hole, two, without a bad hole. You're going to hit bad shots in golf. There's no way around that. So for us to understand that, I think that'll help knowing that the bad shots are going to come. But two, appreciating, okay, I just hit a bad shot. How can I get a putt for par? That is my goal. How can I even get a putt for bogey? Sometimes that's those two thoughts need to be in our head more often when we're playing through golf and we end up in situations where we have to manage our game or you're in an emergency situation. I don't want to say it that way, but you know what I mean. You're in a situation where you have to free yourself from danger. So punching out, trying to get it to the front of the green, get it on the green. I'm telling you right now, if you can somehow be like, okay, all I want is a putt for par, or all I want is a putt for bogey, and then just try to two putt, get out of there with a double bogey or less, move on. I promise you. And when I say these things, I want your high handicappers to know this, that I still want you to be aggressive. When you get in these moments where the hole eats you alive and you're in trees and things are hidden, you're hitting everything fat or nothing seems right, those are your learning moments. And don't take those away from yourself. They're good moments. They're aggravating moments, but they're good moments because you are learning how to handle that adversity and you're learning what not to do. So to go past that or to move past that, you have to still play with aggression. On if you say it's a short par 4 and you've played it a couple times lately terribly, and you get up on it and you start thinking, I need to change my ideas and hit an iron. Sure, try that. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but what you'll start to notice is when you do something like that, hitting an iron's not going to change anything. It's going to create the same problems you had with the driver. But what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up having a longer shot in with the same issues because you're becoming more tentative now. You're allowing golf to control you instead of you learning from golf and understanding that golf is not meant to hurt you. Golf is just reacting to what you're doing. All you have to do is change what you're doing and things will change. It's nothing that is this big, complicated equation. It's very, very simple. The reality is golf has a little bit of luck. So sometimes if you get a bad bounce or things get unlucky, we have to understand that that's part of the game. That's what we signed up for. I think Ben Hogan says that about a bad bounce in golf is like a bad bounce in life. It's part of it. So I think for my high handicappers, if we end up in these tough situations, I don't want us to feel like we have to take away the aggression and lay off on a different tee shot. I think we should go more of the route of let's fix our swing, let's get it better to where I can perform better. That's what we really want. I think that's strategically, that's how we should think. Okay, so this is a good strategic thing I wanted to talk about. This will finish the podcast today. But I think a lot of people, including myself, we need to do this more often. So the day of prep, what do most people typically do wrong strategically when it comes to preparing the day of? And I think a lot of it has to do with stretching. I really think a lot of us expect a ton out of our bodies because when we were younger, we had a limber. We have ideas that were much easier to attain, but as we get older and as we get less limber, we tend to end up in situations where we're not swinging bad. Our bodies just are not allowing us to swing. So I think as golfers in total, we need to stretch, definitely stretch before rounds. And I mean heavy stretches, and I don't mean static. I mean dynamic. Static stretching where you're just sitting there trying to touch your toes. That's not what we need. We need, like high leg kicks, right? We need to do movements, very dynamic stretching. And we can do that on the range 5-10 minutes beforehand, but we need to incorporate that with our range time because that helps a ton. Speed stick, get the shoulders, the rotator cuff. That would help a lot. I think for a lot of people. And another thing that I notice is this, and this is something, and I get it, putting sucks. It sucks. Don't get me wrong. We can spend all this money on putters. And I just bought a lab putter. So yeah, I know. Dropping bombs. I'm a lot of my buddies are giving me shit for it, which is awesome. I got the new OZ with the heel shaft in it, and I got the crazy alignment. It's got the 2 solid lines down it. I'm a big fan of the color black, so it's obviously all black. I love it. It's a great putter. I enjoy it. Still learning how to. I got the heavier head, so I'm still learning how to hit the longer putts with it. But this is something I don't see a lot of amateurs doing. I see a lot of better players doing this for sure, but I don't see a lot of amateurs doing this. You need to spend more time putting than hitting fucking balls. Putt. Get the speeds down. Hit ball. If you're playing and you have an hour, spend 15-20 minutes hitting and then spend the same amount of time putting. Maybe even 25 minutes. You have to. I know it's brutal. It's brutal. Putting blows. But you have to get the speed down. It's like the offensive line in football. If you don't have good speed, I don't care how well you're striking the ball, you're fucked. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter at that point. We can have the best quarterback ready to throw. He's got dialed in, arm tight, spiral just ready. But if he can't get the ball off, that's my point. That you need, please, if there's anything for an amateur to take away from this podcast, it would be this thing right here. And this is simply it. Do you want to play really good golf? There's 2 things you need to do. First thing you need to do is you need to learn how to hit it in play off the tee box. Find a shot that it goes the same way every time. I don't care if it's left to right, right to left. Now we can get into a deeper discussion about which we prefer, a fade or a draw. And that would be an amazing discussion. I would have to do that with someone else here just to see how that would go. That would be phenomenal. But I don't think it, to me, if we can eliminate one side of the golf course strategically, that's great off the tee. That would be one thing I would do. Second thing I would do is when you go play at a course and you want to play well, you need to putt for at least 10 minutes. I would say at least 10 minutes. I would even go as far as 15 and 20 if you really want. You need to putt. You need to putt long putts, short putts, medium, everything. And don't worry about what your line is. We went over this on the last podcast. Your line is fine. You're going to miss some putts. You're going to pull and push some. I promise you that it's just the way it goes. Your putter being completely square is literally impossible. You have to get your speed right. Get your speed right. Let everything else develop. I think to take away from everything today is let's develop a game plan regardless if I've been there or not. We need to know what we're up against. And what I mean by having a game plan is seeing which holes are long, which holes are short. Don't think about what clubs you're going to hit. Let the yardages show on the day of. However, see the green complexes, figure out where to miss on the greens. Try to get a game plan, right? Second thing would be that pick when to be aggressive, when not to be aggressive throughout the round. Call them green lights. You got to find your green lights, and when you have your green lights, that's when we try to get that shot in to get that, to me, to get that birdie, right? Why not? And then when we end up in third thing is when we end up in certain situations throughout the round that are not ideal and we're in trouble and we have to get out of trouble, we need to manage our expectations and try to figure out how to get a putt for a par or a bogey. That's it. In the woods, in a bunker, whatever we have to do, punch out, splash out, fine. Try to manage to where we can have a putt for either a par or a bogey. And then last, we talked about the day of with stretching. Find a good stretching routine. Make it more dynamic. Dynamic helps a lot. And then we talked about getting the speeds of the greens. And I also mentioned a little bit about the tee box, finding a shot on your tee shot that you can consistently hit under pressure. So those ideas will help your strategy on the golf course, and those are strategies that I see most golfers not doing and then expecting good results, when in reality we can do simple tasks that don't require manipulation of our golf swing that will help us perform in the round. And I promise you, if there's anything, it's the speed of the greens. Get your speed down. I promise you, that'll help you a ton because it helps with chipping. It just, and it sucks. I had so many old guys tell me when I was a kid, and I know people reside with me on this. With that old dude on the edge of the putting green, Man, you boys just play golf all the time. You need to be putting and chipping. You need to be putting and chipping. You want to be like them boys on TV. You need to be out there putting. Get them putts down. Chip and putt. Golf, Grandpa. But lo and behold, man, old man Johnny limping down the damn fairway was right on the fucking money. I was a damn 13-year-old not giving a shit. God, those were the days, huh? Eating like 3 hot dogs around. Phew. I probably still have that same parasite in me right now. Big old fucking thing. All right, boys and girls, that's it for me. Get strategic. So we're gonna keep doing these golfing podcasts for a while. Hopefully that'll get people going a little bit. I feel like I was going on some tangents, some stuff, but I do have motives, and I want to get junior golf affordable, and I think there's a lot of pro golfers that can't afford stuff, and there's a lot of money that we can help out in the golf community, and I think recreation is really important for the lower and middle class, and so that recreation through golf can really benefit mental health for lower class, middle class societies. So, but yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Another episode of Looper Talk. My name is Tim Palmer. And don't forget, lighten your bags, 200 a strap. Thank you all. Have a good night.